The wind was loud on the dead planet. Snow was falling from the dark sky. Everything was white and cold and broken. Nothing moved for miles. No trees, no animals, no light. Only silence and ice in this silent world. Two small figures were hiding. They were not human. They were alien girls. One was tall and thin with silver hair and blue skin. The other was smaller with green eyes and dark purple marks on her arms. Their clothes were torn. Their bodies were shaking. They had no shoes, no food, no home. Only fear. They sat under broken metal pieces from an old ship. They did not speak. They held each other and closed their eyes, trying to sleep, trying to forget the burning sky they saw when their home was destroyed, trying to forget the screams of their people, trying to forget the monsters in metal suits who took everything away. For many days they stayed like that, hiding, hungry, afraid. Many ships flew over the sky, but no one stopped, no one helped. They had no hope left then. One day a sound came, a loud sound. A new ship. It landed not far from them. The ship was silver and clean, and it made a strange humming sound. Girls looked at each other. Their eyes were wide. They wanted to run, but they were too weak, too cold. A man stepped out of the ship. He was tall and strong. He wore a white spacesuit. He looked around. He moved slowly over the snow, like he was searching for something. Then he saw the metal pieces. He saw something moving under them. He walked closer, careful, quiet. The girls saw him. They tried to hide their small hands, holding each other tight, their faces full of fear. The man stopped. He took off his helmet. He showed his face. He had kind eyes. His breath made clouds in the cold air, but he was not afraid. He bent down and said something in a soft voice. The girls did not understand the words, but the voice was calm, warm, not like the other humans who shouted and hurt. This one was different. He took off his gloves and reached out his hand, slow and gentle. He did not force them. He waited. The taller girl looked at her sister, then at the man. Her lips were blue, her eyes full of tears. She touched his hand. It was warm. She held it tight. The man smiled. He picked both girls up in his arms. They were light as feathers. He walked back to the ship, carrying them like treasure. Inside the ship it was warm and bright. There was food, water, blankets. He wrapped the girls and gave them soup. They looked around, eyes wide with shock and wonder. For the first time in a long time they felt safe. The man sat with them. He showed pictures on a small screen. Pictures of Earth, blue skies, green trees, children laughing. He pointed at himself and said, "Ray." Then he pointed at them, asking for their names. The girls did not speak, not yet, but they watched and listened, and slowly they began to trust. Ray looked at the stars through the window. He whispered something to himself, something the girls could not understand, but his eyes said everything. He looked at them again and said softly, "Both of you, come home." The girls did not know what the word home meant, but they felt it in his voice, in the warmth, in the silence that was not cold anymore. They smiled just a little, but far away in the deep dark space. A light turned on. A red signal started blinking. Something woke up. They saw the location. They knew the faces. They said, "They are alive." The hunters began to move, but the girls did not know this yet. They only knew the warm ship, the kind man, and the word home. The ship moved through the stars, slow and quiet like a bird in the sky. Inside the ship the lights were soft. The walls were silver. The air was warm. The two alien girls sat on a soft seat, blankets around them. Their eyes were tired but open, their hands still shaking a little. But their faces looked different now, less fear, more wonder. Captain Ray stood near the control panel. His hands moved over the glowing buttons. He looked at the screen, watched the stars, checked the signals. Everything seemed normal. The girls looked around the room. Screens showed pictures of Earth, waterfalls, forests, children playing. They watched with wide eyes. One girl pointed at a tree. Her lips moved. No sound came, but her eyes were shining. Ray smiled. He sat down near them. He opened a small device. It showed a few simple words. One word said water, one word said food, one word said safe. He said the words slowly, then pointed at the things around them. The taller girl touched the word safe. She looked at Ray. She blinked. She understood. He nodded yes, safe but far in the back of the ship. Someone was not smiling. His name was Mark. He was part of the crew. He sat in a small room with wires and screens. He watched the camera feeds. He watched the girls, and he frowned. He pressed a button. A screen opened. He whispered to the machine, "We picked up 2 aliens. They are alive. They are not human. What do we do?" The message went into space, a secret signal. Silent and fast back in the main room, the girls were learning. They watched Ray say simple words. They tried to copy. The smaller girl said, "Ray," with a quiet voice. He laughed, not loud, just soft and happy. He showed a picture of Earth again. He pointed and said, "Home." The girls looked. They said nothing, but something inside them moved. A memory, maybe, or a dream. Suddenly the taller girl stood up, her eyes wide, her body stiff. She looked around. Her hands touched her chest. She whispered a sound. It was strange. Sharp. Ray stood up too. He walked to her, asked if she was hurt. She shook her head. No, but her eyes said something was wrong. Far across space, a light was blinking, a red light. A tracker had activated. A long time ago, someone had placed something inside the girls, a chip, small and hidden. It was quiet for years, but now it was awake. The signal traveled fast. It reached a ship in deep space. The ship was black, sharp like a knife. Inside the ship were hunters, not animals, but people who hunt living things. One of them opened his eyes. He saw the signal. He smiled, not a kind smile, but a cold one. "We found them," he said. "They should be dead. We must finish the job." They changed their course, headed toward the human ship. Back on Ray's ship, the girls were resting. Ray gave them real clothes, soft and clean. They looked at themselves in the mirror. They touched the fabric. They had never worn anything like it. They sat again, drank warm soup. The smaller girl spoke. Her voice was broken but clear. She said one word, "Thank." Ray looked surprised. Then he nodded yes, "Thank you." In the corner of the ship, a screen blinked. Ray walked over, checked the signal. A soft alarm was beeping. He frowned. Something was wrong. He tapped the screen, looked at the data. The tracker signal was coming from inside the ship, from the girls. He looked back at them. He did not speak. He did not shout. He just watched and thought, who are they? Why were they tracked? Why are they hunted? He looked again at the screen. 3 hours. That was the time left. 3 hours before something arrived. Ray turned off the alarm. He did not tell the girls. Not yet. He walked back, smiled again, sat down beside them. The ship flew on, quiet again. But now, there was something else in the air. Not just warmth, not just safety, something hidden like a storm before it starts. The girls did not know. Ray did not show. Mark in the back was watching, and far away the hunters were coming. Not to help, not to talk, but to finish what they started. And the girls, they were not ready, not yet, but something inside them was starting to wake up to something old and powerful. Deep in the black part of space, a ship floated like a shadow with wings. Its body was dark metal, sharp and cold. No lights on the outside. No colors, no sound, just silence and power inside the ship. Red lights flashed slowly, beeping. Sounds echoed in the empty hallway. A door slid open. A tall figure stepped out. Its face was covered, its armor full of scars and burns. On its wrist, a screen showed a map. A blinking red dot moved across the stars. He stood still for a moment. Then spoke in a low voice, "Target found. They are alive. I want them back." Another figure stepped out from the shadows, smaller but faster, eyes glowing under a helmet. She clicked her fingers. "No survivors this time. Orders are clear. Eliminate." The ship turned. Engines lit up with blue flames. It moved through space like a beast on the hunt. Fast, silent, dangerous. Back on Ray's ship, the girls sat in the control room, wrapped in soft jackets, holding warm cups, watching stars fly by outside the window. They did not speak much, but they looked around with eyes that remembered pain. Ray walked in holding a small device. He sat near them. He showed a map of space. A blinking dot showed Earth. He pointed at it. "Home," he said again. The smaller girl whispered, "Home." She said it soft and slow. Ray smiled. The taller girl looked at the screen. She saw another dot moving, a ship. She stared at it. Her hand touched her chest. She felt something, a strange pull, like fear waking up again. She stood up fast, her eyes wide. She said something in her own language. Ray looked confused. Then the ship's warning lights turned yellow. Mark ran in from the back, holding a tablet. Something is coming, he said fast and not friendly. Ray checked the screen. The signal was strong. The hunter ship, it was 2 hours away. No response to messages, no ID, nothing. Ray turned to the girls. He looked at them close. Is someone following you? He asked. The taller girl said nothing, but her face answered for her. Yes. Ray walked to the control panel. He started his scan. He looked for anything strange. He checked the girls' bodies with a soft scanner, and then he found it inside their skin. A small tracker, old alien, but still working. He stared at it, silent for a moment. Then he looked at the girls again. They put this inside you. You didn't even know. The girls looked down, ashamed, scared. The smaller one began to cry, soft tears falling on her hands. Ray sat beside them. He reached out his hand. He said, "Not your fault. You did nothing." "Wrong." Mark stepped forward. "We need to get rid of it now before they arrive." Ray nodded. He took the girls to the med room. He used gentle tools, removed the tracker's tiny black pieces. He placed them in a metal box. Locked it. Then he opened the airlock and threw the box into space far away in the hunter ship. The signal stopped. The blinking dot vanished. The tall hunter slammed his hand on the wall. "They know we are coming. Get ready." Back on Ray's ship, the girls rested, their hands now free from the trackers. They looked at each other, then at Ray. They sat close to him. No words, but trust. Suddenly, the taller girl closed her eyes. Her body began to glow, faint light around her skin. Her hair lifted slightly like wind was touching it. Ray stepped back, surprised. Mark stared, eyes wide. The girl opened her eyes. The light faded. She looked calm. She said one word, "Power." Ray asked, "What did they do to you?" Smaller girl spoke. "They made us, not born, made in lab, not natural." Ray listened. No anger in his face, just care. Just sadness. "You are alive," he said. "You feel pain. You are not machines. You are children." The ship beeped again. 1 hour left. The hunter ship was almost near. Ray stood up. He pressed the red button. The ship changed course. They had to hide, but space was open. No place to run. No place to land. Ray looked at the girls, then at Mark. "We fight if we must, but we protect them." Mark nodded. The girls stood up, no longer shaking, not weak, not afraid. The taller one looked at the window. She raised her hand. A soft light formed again, not bright, but growing. The smaller one held Ray's arm. She said, "We will not run." Not again. And far in space, the hunter ship saw their light. The game had changed now. The hunted were ready to fight. The stars were quiet, but the silence was fake. Something was coming fast and close. The space around Ray's ship turned colder, as if fear itself was near. The blinking lights on the screen flashed red, a warning without words, a danger without face. The girls stood behind Ray, their eyes fixed on the radar. They could feel it in their bones. Not just a ship, not just hunters, but memories chasing them, pain chasing them, the past chasing them. Ray moved to the controls. His fingers flew across the panel. "Engines ready, shields up, weapons on standby." Mark shouted from the back. 1 minute left. "They are almost here." The taller girl closed her eyes again. Her body gave off a soft white light. She was not afraid this time. The smaller girl grabbed her hand. Both stood strong side by side, like fire and wind. Quiet but ready. Ray looked at them. He saw more than aliens. He saw survivors. He saw warriors. The radar blinked one last time. Then the darkness outside cracked open. A black ship appeared, big, sharp, like a monster made of metal. It moved fast. No lights, no signal, only speed, only danger. A beam of red light shot forward. Ray's ship shook. The floor jumped. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Ray grabbed the chair, held steady. "Shields down by 20%. Mark shouted. "They are not here to talk." Ray nodded. He turned the ship, dived under the hunter. Another blast came, missed by inches. Girls watched the fight, their hands tight, their hearts louder than the engines. The taller one said, "Let me help." Ray looked at her. He did not say no. He only moved aside. She walked to the middle of the room. Her feet light, her breath calm. She lifted her hands. A pulse of white energy spread from her skin. It touched the walls, the wires. Systems, the ship felt alive. Mark stared. What is she doing? Ray answered slow. Something we cannot understand. Outside, the hunter ship fired again. But this time, the energy hit something invisible, a shield not made by machines, but by her. The beams scattered. Like rain on glass inside, the girls stood like statues, calm still, but full of power. The smaller one closed her eyes. She whispered in a language unknown. The ship moved smoother, faster, like it knew what she wanted. Ray checked the panel. Systems are. Faster, engines stronger. What is happening here? The ship flew in loops, danced around the hunter, dodged lasers, sent countershots. One beam hit the hunter wing. A spark, a crack. The hunter captain inside growled. He slammed his fist on the console. Impossible. They were weak. They were children. His second said, they are changing. They are not what we made anymore. He shouted, destroy the ship. No more games. The hunter ship charged one final blast. A red core glowed at the center. It hummed like a storm ready to break. Ray's ship was fast, but not fast enough. Ray saw the light. He knew it would. Hive turned to the girls. He said, this is it. But then the taller girl stepped forward. She raised her arms. Her glow turned brighter, brighter than fire, brighter. Then the blast. She screamed without sound. A wave of pure energy shot forward, white, clean, blinding. It hit the red blast, stopped it, held it, then bent it back. The hunter ship tried to escape, too late. Their own blast crashed into their front. A fire spread through the black ship. Sparks, screams, smoke. They turned away, running now, wounded inside Ray's ship. Silence returned. No shaking, no blasts, only breath. Only light fading slowly. The girls fell to their knees, tired, not hurt, just empty for a moment. Ray ran to them, held them both, not like cargo, not like soldiers, but like family. Mark stared at the screen. They are running. We won. Ray nodded, but his eyes looked deeper. This is not the end. They will come back. He looked at the girls. But so will we. The ship slowed. Peace returned for now. The girls opened their eyes. They looked at Ray. They smiled, small, real. They had faced the fire. And they were still here, not tools, not weapons, not victims, alive. The stars were far behind. The battle was over, but not forgotten. Ray's ship moved slow across the dark sky. No clear path, no clear plan, only a need to hide, to rest, to find a place where danger could not follow. Mark scanned the map. Most places were empty. Many planets were dead, but one showed signs of air, signs of gravity. A planet full of metal, not green, not blue, just gray. A world of broken machines, junk, scraps, ruins. Ray looked at the girls. They were quiet, their energy low, their eyes heavy. He nodded at Mark. Take us down. The ship entered. They thick clouds, dark smoke wrapped around the windows. Sparks of old tech floated in the sky. Wires, panels, rusty arms of robots long dead. They landed on a flat platform. It creaked under the ship's weight. No trees, no rivers, just towers of trash piles, of lost inventions, forgotten ideas, things made by hands then thrown away. The girls stepped out with Ray. The air was dry. The ground was sharp. They walked through the maze of broken things, silence all around, but not empty, not lifeless, just waiting. Taller girl paused. She touched a piece of metal. It glowed faint blue. Her hand shook. This shape, this tech, it was not human. It was from her world. Ray saw her face. He asked, you know this? She nodded, slow, eyes wide. She said, this was hours long ago. They moved deeper into the junk fields. Each step brought more signs, more machines with familiar shapes. The girls walked faster, their steps sure, their eyes scanning. Then the smaller girl stopped. She pointed at a tower, half buried, rusty, cracked but still standing. Ray walked closer. A door sat at the base, locked, but the taller girl raised her hand. A light blinked. The door opened. Inside it was cold. Dust on every wall, screens, broken chairs, rusted. But the air still moved. The power still lived. They moved through the hallway, old symbols on the walls. Not human, alien, but known to the girls. They followed the lights downward, deeper, until they reached a room. In the center was a table. Around it were pods, some open, some sealed inside. The sealed ones were shapes, small, still forgotten. The smaller girl stepped close, her face full of pain. She whispered, "These were like us, made then left, never woke up." Ray felt cold in his chest. He looked around. This place was not a home, it was a lab. The taller girl touched a screen. It turned on. A voice began to speak, old, worn, full of static. "If you are hearing this, then Project Dawn has failed. The subjects escaped or died. Erase all records. No survivors allowed." Ray stared at the screen. Mark stood beside him, their faces pale. The truth was heavy. The girls were not just made, they were hunted for a reason, not for what they did, but for what they were. Living proof of the past, living keys to the future. The screen showed images, young aliens in training, machines testing powers, scientists watching with cold eyes. One image froze on the screen. Two small figures holding hands, eyes scared, hair glowing, skin marked with lines. The girls looked at it. They saw themselves from long ago. The taller one said, "They trained us to fight, then locked us away. We were tools." The smaller one added, "We were not meant to survive." Ray felt fire in his chest. He looked at them. He said, "But you did. You are here, not weapons, not mistakes. You are alive." Mark checked the system. He found a hidden file, a code, a signal. He said, "This place has a beacon. It can send a message across galaxies." Ray thought for a moment, then nodded. "We use it, not to hide, to call for help." The taller girl stepped forward. She placed her hand on the panel. It glowed again. She spoke one word, "Earth." The signal launched, bright, fast, true. Somewhere across space, a satellite turned. A human base received the call back on the planet of broken things. The lab was waking up. Lights flickered, doors open, data moved. The girls stood strong, their past behind, their future still unclear. But they were no longer running. They were no longer alone, and the stars above now held one more voice calling home. The lab lights turned brighter with every second. Old systems came alive like sleeping beasts, now opening their eyes. Dust moved across the floor as hidden machines started to hum. Screens glowed with new energy, words in alien language scrolled fast. The air was thick with old secrets and new danger. The girls stood in the center of the room, their eyes locked on the glowing map in front of them. Lines moved across the screen, stars connected by paths. Each line was a piece of history lost and buried, each dot a world touched by the same hands that had built them. Ray watched without blinking. Mark stood behind him, silent and tense. Both men could feel the weight in the air, not from gravity, but from the truth rising like smoke from fire. A new file opened on the screen. A video began to play. No voice, only images, fast, sharp, unforgiving. First image showed a bright world full of light. Tall towers, flying ships, alien scientists in white coats. Then the next image showed a room full of small children, eyes, glowing hair, strange skin, marked with lines of light. Each child inside a glass pod, wires in their arms. Screens showing levels and numbers. One child opened her eyes. It was her, the taller girl, but younger, alone, afraid. The smaller girl appeared next, her face pressed against the glass. A tear rolled down. Even through the screen the pain felt real. Ray clenched his hands, his jaw tight. He had seen war, he had seen loss, but this was different. This was cruelty wrapped in science. This was wrong. The video showed tests, fire and water, pain and light. The children were made to run, to fall, to fight each other, each day harder than the last. Each success marked with more wires, each failure taken away. The screen stopped. A line appeared across the center. Project Dawn objective: create the perfect soldiers. No fear, no rest, no mercy. Mark whispered, "They made you like weapons, not like people." The girls did not speak. They did not need to. Their eyes told everything. Ray turned to them. He knelt down. He spoke slow and soft. "What they made is not what you are. You are not their tools. You are more." The taller girl looked at her hands. They started to glow, but it was not the same glow as before. This light was calm, gentle, like a heartbeat, not a weapon, a sign of life. The smaller girl stepped forward. She touched a panel, new data came to life. A map of Earth. A list of names. A connection between old science and human labs. Mark stared at it. They shared this tech with others. Maybe some humans helped. Ray shook his head. Not all humans are the same. Some build, some break, but we choose what we become. Lab started to shake. A warning appeared. Unauthorized beacon transmission. Detected danger approaching. Ray ran to the console. He read the screen. Someone heard the signal, not from Earth, something else. Closing fast. Mark checked the radar. New ship inbound, 1 hour. Big. Not Hunter class. Worse. The girls looked at each other. They could feel it. The creators were coming. Not to help, not to talk, but to erase the proof, to silence the story, to take back what they thought still belonged to them. Ray stood up, his voice firm. We fight if we must, but this time not for escape, this time for truth. The taller girl raised her hand. A spark formed in her palm. It danced like flame but cold as ice. It held shape like a blade, but did not cut. It was power made from will, not anger. The smaller girl stood beside her. She opened her fingers. A soft sound rang in the air, like a bell. Made of light. The machines in the lab turned to her. They followed her voice. She was not just power, she was connection. Ray opened the ship's come. He sent one more message to Earth. They are not weapons, they are not mistakes, they are ours now, and we will stand with them. Outside, the sky turned dark. The incoming ship cut through clouds like a knife through cloth. Its lights were not red, not white, but black. Like shadow given form. Mark whispered, "This is not just a fight. This is history trying to bury itself." Ray answered, "Then we become the ones who dig it back up." The girls closed their eyes. Their lights joined together, not bright, but steady, like a new sun rising from a world of ashes, and somewhere deep in the metal floor, a seed began to grow, a signal stronger than fear, a truth louder than war. The creators were almost here, but this time the girls would not run. The stars looked tired as the ship drifted through space like a bird with wounded wings. Ray sat at the front watching the black screen as Mark flipped through possible worlds with life. No planet was green, no planet was safe, but one showed a faint blue line across its surface. Not nature, not beauty, just metal, cold and endless. Ray looked at the girls who stood silent, with eyes that had seen too much. He nodded and the ship turned slowly toward the world of broken things. The engines groaned, the metal shook. The journey was quiet, even the stars seemed to hold their breath. The planet came closer. It looked like a junkyard dropped from heaven. Mountains of machines, oceans of trash, skies full of smoke and old sparks, wires like roots of dead trees, gears bigger than houses. Rust and silence wrapped around every corner. They landed on a flat area where old machines once stood tall. Now everything was bent or fallen or forgotten. The girls stepped out with slow feet. The ground crunched under their boots. The taller one looked around, and her breath caught the air, smelled like the past. They walked together through piles of broken arms, cracked helmets, burnt memory chips. Mark scanned for energy. Ray looked for shelter. The girls listened for ghosts. Taller girl stopped near a giant half-buried door. Symbols were scratched into the frame. Not human, new. She reached out and touched them with shaking fingers. The door hissed and opened like it had waited just for her. Inside was darkness. The air was dry, no sound, no color, only the echo of their steps and the buzz of old power waiting to wake up. Ray led with a flashlight. Mark followed with a scanner. The girls walked in the center as if their bodies knew the path, even before the lights showed the way. They passed rooms with shattered glass, desks covered in dust, walls full of screens that blinked once then died, until they found a room that still breathed. A glowing table stood in the middle. 4 empty chairs, 1 cracked screen. A quiet voice played through hidden speakers, a voice too calm for what it said. Project Dawn failed units escaped. All records must be erased. All subjects must be destroyed. The smaller girl walked to the screen and pressed her hand to the glass. It flickered and showed her face. Younger Wired watched. The taller girl saw herself too, not as she was now, but as something. Built, measured, marked. Ray stared at the screen. The room grew colder even without wind. He whispered low. This was not a lab. This was a prison for minds not born, but shaped. Mark found a file locked deep in the system. He opened it. The walls lit up. With maps, names, experiments. Plans never finished. The girls stood still as the light touched them. Each memory returned, each test, each scream. Each moment they were told they were not real, not alive, not enough. Ray turned to them. He placed a hand on each shoulder, his voice steady. You were made by them, but you are not theirs. You are more than what they built. The taller girl stepped to the center. She lifted her hand. A soft glow formed. It reached out to the machines, the walls, the lights. The lab responded. A message formed in the air, a map, a signal path. It showed Earth. The smaller girl raised her fingers. Lines moved on the screen. She touched a word that said home. The beacon activated. A pulse went out, not loud but clear. Back on Earth, a signal tower blinked. A voice reached human ears, broken, strange, but filled with truth. We are alive. We were made. We were left. Now we return. Ray stood back as the lab powered up fully. Robots opened their eyes. Screens filled with files. Data flowed like rivers. Old truth rushing into the present. The taller girl whispered, "This is not just junk. This was our beginning." Mark looked at the machines. He asked, "What if someone else hears the signal?" Ray nodded slow. "Then they come, then we stand." The girls stood side by side, not hiding, not crying. Their eyes steady, their light calm. Outside, the junk around them shifted. Metal arms rose. Old satellites turned. Rust cracked under pressure. Something had been buried here. Now it had woken. Not just the lab, but the story itself. The truth they were never meant to know. The truth no one wanted others to hear. But now it had a voice, and it was loud. The girls looked at Ray. They said nothing, but he understood. They were ready. The sky above the junk planet turned black as the enemy ship came closer. No lights on its surface. No name, no message. Only weight. Only silence that pressed down like a mountain made of shadow inside the lab. The ground trembled with each second. Dust fell from the ceiling. Old machines flickered and clicked like they remembered war. Ray stood in the center with both hands gripping the console. Mark checked the sensors and saw the ship was massive, larger than anything they had seen. Not a hunter, not a soldier ship, but something older, something made for final endings. The girls stood together near the crystal. Their light was steady, not loud, not wild, just steady like a heart that refused to stop. Ray opened the "come again." He sent a single word to Earth. Now across stars and signals, Earth received the call. A base in low orbit blinked with red lights. Commanders moved fast. Pilots jumped into ships. Engines roared. Humans launched not for war, but for protection. Not to conquer, but to stand. The lab above ground cracked as pressure from the enemy ship increased. Old walls screamed. Metal bent. Mark shouted over the alarms, "We have to move. We cannot stay in this tomb." Ray nodded. He pointed toward the upper platform. "To the ship. Get them to the sky." They ran through halls now full of shaking lights. Sparks fell like rain. The taller girl led the way, her step sure, her hand glowing as doors opened before her, like they remembered her voice. The smaller girl walked beside her, eyes scanning, listening, feeling the ship above them, feeling the rage it carried. Outside, the human ship waited, its doors wide, engines warm. Ray pushed the girls inside. Mark followed. Ray looked back once at the lab. He whispered to the past, "You do not." When they lifted off, just as the enemy ship dropped lower, its bottom opened like a giant mouth. Dark drones spilled out, not living, not thinking, just metal filled with commands. The sky turned into a maze of shapes. The human ship climbed fast, but the drones chased like angry smoke. Ray sat at the control, his hands firm, his voice calm. "Mark, get shields ready." "Girls, stay with me." The drones fired. Small beams that burned through metal. The ship shook. Ray pulled hard. The ship rolled, dodged, climbed. Then Earth's answer arrived. 5 ships, silver sharp, full of speed and fire. They came from above like thunder given wings. Their guns flashed, their engines screamed. One by one the drones fell like rain, pieces burned and scattered across the broken sky. Ray laughed once, quick and bright. They came, they really came. The girls stood behind him, their eyes wide, not with fear, but with something new. Something called hope. The enemy ship reacted. It opened again, this time not drones, but light, a beam of dark red aimed straight at Ray's ship. The taller girl stepped forward. She did not ask, she did not wait. She lifted both hands. The beam struck, but it did not pass. A wall of white light spread from the ship. The beam hit it, pressed against it, but could not break it. Inside the ship, the taller girl's face was still, her body shaking, but her hands strong. The smaller girl reached out and touched the floor. She closed her eyes. Whispers passed through wires. The ship listened, moved faster, flew smarter, dodged smoother. The human ships moved in. They fired together. Blasts hit the enemy ship. Cracks appeared. Pieces fell. The enemy ship began to turn. Slow, wounded, scared. Maybe Ray shouted, "Now all power forward." He pushed the ship toward the enemy straight fast. The girls held hands. Their light combined. It formed a point at the front of the ship, a spear of truth. The human ships opened a path. The drones were gone. The sky was clear. Ray's ship hit the center of the enemy, like a star reborn. No explosion, no fire, just a wave of light that spread in all directions. The enemy ship stopped moving. Its lights dimmed. Its shape fell. Slow, silent, done. The sky cleared. The stars returned, and so did the quiet inside the ship. The girls sat on the floor, breathing slow, hands still holding, eyes closed but smiling. Ray turned the ship back toward Earth, his voice soft. "We bring them home." Days later, the girls walked on real ground, not metal but soil, grass under feet. Sun on skin. Children ran past, laughed, played. One boy stopped, looked at them, asked with wide eyes, "Where are you from?" The taller girl looked at the sky, then at Ray, then at her sister. She smiled and said, "We are human now."